Hey, Steve. What's your take on if thine eye be single, let body be filled with light?
If your eye is good, your whole body will be filled with light.
Yes.
In Matthew chapter 6.
Yes. What's your take on that?
Well, it's metaphorical, I believe, because I don't think there's anything necessary about your physical body being filled with physical light. I mean, obviously your body's filled with blood and guts and things like that. So it's obviously a figure of speech. Now, the eye being good or the eye being bad, these are things that Jesus contrasts there in Matthew 6. These are an idiom that you find in the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's actually the case that we wouldn't have guessed it unless we saw it used frequently in the Bible this way. If a person had a good eye, that meant that they're generous. And if a person has a bad eye, it meant they're a miser or they're greedy. And so in the Old Testament it says, he that has a good eye has mercy on the poor, or he that has an evil eye does not help the poor, or something like that. There's different proverbs and psalms that talk about a person's eye, when what they're really talking about is their level of materialism and greediness. And Jesus is using the same idiom. In fact, there's another place in Matthew chapter 20 when he talks about the servants who were hired to work all day and some were hired to work the last few hours of the day. At the end, the ones who worked the longest for the same wage complained, and the master said, "Is your eye evil because I'm generous to these other ones?" In other words, are you greedy because I'm only paying you what I agreed to pay you, but I give the same to someone who worked hard less? In other words, is your eye evil means are you greedy? Now, when Jesus in Matthew 6 is using these terms, he's talking about greed. He's talking about not laying up treasures on earth, but the need to lay up treasures in heaven. And he goes on later to talk about not serving God and mammon. So he's got the whole attitude of the believer toward wealth in mind here. And he says if your eye is evil, which really is the idiom that means if you're greedy, if your eye is evil, you're going to be full of darkness. Your body is going to be full of darkness. But if your eye is good, that means if you're generous, your body will be filled with light. Now, of course, he's not really talking about the literal eye or the literal body.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just using the body and the eye as metaphors. He's basically saying if your attitude toward wealth is trusting God and generous toward others, then your whole life will be filled with light. But if it's full of greed, then everything about you inside is going to be dark.
Okay, because I thought he might be talking about the soul.
Well, that is kind of what I think he is talking about. I think when he says your whole body, I think he's speaking metaphorically, speaking of the soul, rather.
Okay. That's pretty much what I saw, too. I didn't connect it up with that other parable.
Yeah. Excellent.
All right. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Okay, John. Thanks for your call.
Okay, bye.
Bye now.